ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダーツ、ナマンダーツ、ナマンダーツ、ナマンダーツ、ナマンダーツ、ナマンダーツ。高原義義偉人無国如善妙無用当社日月間に主公遠慮開始のんぺい有脈樹木如来有言長生無林小学大音コールジポ開門精進三昧知恵意徳無量修正慶人体前年諸仏法界愚人人の苦語外体無明欲ぬ世尊用無人のしし人徳無量苦訓広大知恵人妙光明一層神道大仙願が差仏最小法可動生じ未不下脱不正常意解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世特仏不行不信願一切空空一切大安決し有仏百千億万無量大小修行語者供養一切使徒諸仏不如愚道見性不逆非如語者諸仏世界無不可見無種節道光明師匠変師匠国如是精進偉人難量量が差仏 国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国女内音任務闘争がと愛民道断に際自法来所新年少女糸が国下落安穏公文神妙是が心象発願の日力小所欲自法世尊知恵無下上領子孫真が信用軽量心死食読中な行精進人数不敬ナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムがにしく読平等聖祭道法菩提心おうじょうあんだこナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダツ、ナマンダツ、ナマンダツ、ナマンダツ、ナマンダツ。Please join me in Gassho. Repeat the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats. 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 Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first Sunday service for the month of October. Happy October. I can't believe so much time has passed already, and that the year of 2021 is just 2 months away now. Well, technically 3 months away from being over. I believe that October, more so than September, really brings out the change in the transition of the time, or shows the transition of the seasons. One of the aspects that we see is outside, the changing of the color of the leaves, and then that they will inevitably fall. I start to have flashbacks about this time when I was a teenager and living with my parents still in Sacramento. My father, during this time of fall, would always make my brother and I, or my brother and me, rake leaves on the weekend. It would be his weekly or his weekend chore. All the leaves we had a lot of trees in the background, and the leaves would fall, and my father would, in the afternoon, would say, okay, time to rake leaves. And my brother and I would sometimes groan and complain because, we had to stop playing our video games or watching whatever we were watching, and we had to go outside and rake leaves. Another aspect that many of us here in the Northwest have noticed is that it has rained pretty heavily in the past week. This was an unusually hot summer, apparently, in the Northwest. A lot of my California friends are quite jealous of me because we are now experiencing colder weather and rain, whereas in some parts in California, they're still experiencing 90-degree weather. It's interesting how geography can really depend, even if we're on the same West Coast, right, in the same time zone. Depending if we just go a couple 1,000 miles south, the weather is totally different. You will also notice my robe. I am no longer wearing the see-through robes. So during the summertime, you notice that I wear those robes where you can kind of see through. It's easier to see my shirt and tie or the hakue and juban that I wear underneath the robes. While I was training in Japan, this kind of change was a standard rule that all of us priests had to follow. Many of you know that the clergy in the BCA all probably have these different kinds of robes. So depending on the minister you had at the time, I'm certain the previous ministers have also had the see-through robes during the summertime. But you probably didn't know that there was an exact time, or at least in Japan, there was an exact time we were supposed to transition out of these robes. So for those of you who don't know, from October 1st to May 31st, we wear the solid robes. From June 1st to September 30th, we wear the see-through robes. Why is this? Well, one of them is sort of a practical reason. As you all know, in Kyoto, well, not all of you, but many of you know who have been to Kyoto in the summertime know that it is incredibly hot. It is super, super hot. So out of necessity, we have to wear robes that are lighter, that breathe easier, and can stand the heat. And black is actually not a very fun color to wear during the summertime. So that's why we have the see-through mesh robes. But then during the wintertime in Kyoto, it is really, really cold. So we wear thicker hakue, thicker juban, and we have robes like this that are solid and can keep in the heat. So there is a practical reason for this. But I also think that for the Buddhist reason behind all of these changes is to really signify the passing and the impermanence of time. And guess what? We have these customs in the United States too. Well, we kind of do. I think this is sort of an outdated thing, and it usually, I think, was associated with the wealthy or the upper class, if I'm going to use the term. But many of you remember that there is that old standard rule that after Labor Day, you don't wear white anymore. You put all your white clothes away, and you put them away, and then you transition into your darker clothes. And this happens after Labor Day. And then after Memorial Day, that sort of signifies the beginning of summer. So then you can start wearing your white clothes again. They said that a lot of the rich people would pack up their white clothes and they would go out to the beach or their summer beach houses, and they would wear their white clothes during that time. But again, it just became this standard fashion sense. But again, right, there is also a practical reason to this. White reflects light a lot easier and doesn't trap in heat as much. You probably wear finer cotton during the summertime to allow your clothes to breathe a lot easier. Whereas when the wintertime and the fall and wintertime come, you wear darker clothes to better trap the heat so you don't get as cold. So there is a fashion sense to this, and then there is a practical reason for this as well. But again, to me, the deeper meaning behind a lot of these transitions, and especially when we go with the seasons, is the acknowledgement of the impermanence of time. So one of the big I's in Buddhism, there are those two big I's, right? There's interdependence and there's impermanence. And one of the greatest aspects that we see with impermanence is the passage of time. For a lot of us younger folks, we think that we're going to live forever. We think that we have all the time in the world. We think that we're always going to be young and healthy and full of energy. And then when we look at how time passes, maybe there is a part of us that wakes up and realizes that nothing lasts forever. Now, of course, we intellectually know this. As humans, we intellectually know a lot of things. We know intellectually that time doesn't stay the same. We know intellectually that people inevitably will pass away. We know all of these things. But because we are human, because we are Bonbu, we kind of apply those rules to people outside of ourselves. We kind of apply those rules to the people who are not us, right? Well, that's true for that person over there, but it's not true for me. For me, I'm always going to be young and healthy, and I'm never going to get sick, and I'm always going to be beautiful and young looking, and I'm always going to have hair on the top of my head. And this, of course, we kind of know is not true. But even though we may know it up here, it's hard for us to accept here. So because of that, this is why we must rely on the teachings of the Buddha. And this is why we have to hear messages like interdependence, but today, especially impermanence, being drilled into us all the time. This is why we have to hear these messages again and again and again. Because we realize that with the passage of time, there goes another year. With the passage of time, there is another time that we're a little bit older. I will admit, I don't have the metabolism that I used to have when I was in my early 20s. Back when I went to college, I didn't have the metabolism I had when I was a late teenager. I can't just eat all the donuts I want to anymore. I can't just go out in the rain with my shorts and t-shirts. Well, I still kind of do that, but I used to be able to do all these crazy things when I was young. And now I get colder easier. I can't eat as many spicy foods, right? If I eat spicy foods, my stomach starts to go. Blah, 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 blah. So what does this mean? What is this telling me? This is the impermanence of time. This is the impermanence of all things. The impermanence of my youth. The transition from me being a young person to a middle-aged or older person. This might be a bit scary. Now, in many ways, we can take comfort in the changing of the seasons. The fall colors are really beautiful to look at. And then even when the leaves fall, it provides beautiful imagery for us. And this, in my personal opinion, is also very much equivalent to the teachings of the Buddha, to the teachings that Shinran Shonin handed down to us. We are able to hear some of these sometimes not so nice truths about ourselves and about reality itself. Yet the Buddha was always able to provide these messages in a comforting manner. The Buddha was always able to provide these messages of truth, of reality, When we think of reality, we also think that it's kind of cold and heartless, but the Buddha was able to express the transition of time, the impermanence of all things in a very beautiful way, and was able to do it in a manner that spoke to us. And I think one of these ways that we can really start to appreciate the transition of time and the impermanence of all things is when we look outside and we see the changing of the seasons and realize, oh my gosh, another year is about to pass. Another year is about to go. We're in October now. That means there's only November and December left of the year of 2021. And 2021 in our lifetimes will never happen again. That will be gone. And yet, it is still beautiful. It is still beautiful. We are still able to appreciate and learn from the teachings of Shinran. So with that in mind, I would like all of us to, at one point, take a look outside and take pictures and post them on Facebook if you want to, of the changing color of the leaves and show that we are now in the official time of autumn or fall. And really come to appreciate the meaning, the Buddhist meaning of impermanence. So thank you all very much for joining us today for our first Sunday service in the month of October. I certainly hope that all of you are still continuing to practice safe social distancing measures and health measures. It is great because nationally speaking, the number of infections looks like it's going down just a little bit. But that doesn't mean that we get to go free and loose with our lives, okay? That also means that what we're doing when we socially distance, when we wear masks or get vaccinated, that it's working. So with that in mind, I hope that we all practice this idea of interdependence as well as impermanence. So thank you all very much for joining us today, and please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandats, 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 Namandats.